morning, and prosecutors shared new video in court revealing what a North Texas 7-year-old's final moments of life were like. A stranger, Tanner Horner, took her from her home, forced her to undress, and then strangled her.
Step back, keep your hands up. Step out, turn around, face away from me. Face away from me.
So that being said, as bits and pieces are coming back, that's one of the things you're sure on as well, especially assault. And honestly, you need some details of the way it is.
Sorry, heading towards that, I guess, it's a county road, but the one right across from 2123, and that's when I threw her in the bush.
The chilling audio captured inside a FedEx delivery van reveals a terrifying reality no parent should ever fathom. A 7-year-old girl, snatched from her own front yard just weeks before Christmas, pleads for her life in the dark. As she cries out, asking if he is a kidnapper, the 250-pound driver simply warns her not to scream, masking her final moments with the upbeat tune of Jingle Bell Rock. Her name was Athena Strand. She thought she was just receiving a package of Barbie dolls. Instead, she opened the door to a ruthless monster. The nightmare was only just beginning. Paradise, Texas is exactly what it sounds like, a quiet, sprawling rural community where families live on acres of open land and kids can just be kids. It's the kind of place where danger feels like something that only happens on the evening news, far away from their tight-knit neighborhoods. This was the safe, idyllic world of 7-year-old Athena Strand. Athena was an absolute light in the lives of everyone who knew her. She was a vibrant, free spirit who adored the color pink, sang Frozen songs at the top of her lungs, and had this fierce, beautiful dream of growing up to be a Viking princess, with tattoos like her dad and hair as long as Rapunzel's. She was an innocent, joyful child full of life and boundless imagination. On the chilly afternoon of November 30, 2022, the sun was beginning to dip below the Texas horizon. It was a completely ordinary Wednesday. Athena was at home on her father's expansive property, just steps away from the safety of her front door. Sometime around dusk, a familiar white FedEx delivery truck rumbled up the long dirt driveway. To a kid, a delivery driver is practically a modern-day Santa Claus. When that truck pulls up, it usually means something exciting has arrived. And something had. The driver dropped off a package on the property. Inside that cardboard box was a "You Can Be Anything" Barbie collection. It was an early Christmas present meant to be placed under the tree for Athena, a gift perfectly suited for a little girl whose entire future was ahead of her. But just minutes after that package was set on the ground, Athena vanished without a trace. When it was time for dinner, she was simply gone. The sprawling property that had always been her safe playground suddenly felt vast, empty, and terrifyingly silent. Panic immediately set in as her family frantically searched every corner, calling out her name into the frigid night air. What struck me the most was that while her family was desperately tearing through the brush, praying she had just wandered off, the horrifying truth was unfolding just down the road, trapped in complete darkness. Inside the cold, metallic cargo area of that FedEx van, a terrified 7-year-old girl was looking up at a massive, 250-pound man. The truck's internal camera had been deliberately covered, but the system's microphone kept running. Through the chilling audio, you can hear the raw, unimaginable fear in Athena's voice. With heartbreaking innocence, she asks a question no child should ever have to ask.
Warns her, "Don't scream or I will hurt you."
She keeps asking him, "Where are we going?" Finally, she says, "Are you a kidnapper?"
Athena begins to cry when Horner asks her to take off her shirt and tells him, "My mom says you can't do that to me." Athena tells him to stop and says, No, I want my mama, I want my mama." The recording is more than an hour long, with Athena crying, gasping for air, and in pain.
You can actually hear what we think might be the point where he began to strangle her.
Her family was still back at the house, searching the dense woods and praying for her safe return. Little did they know, the monster wasn't lurking in the woods. He was driving a delivery truck right out of their driveway. The sun quickly vanished, taking with it any remaining warmth as the Texas night turned bone-chillingly cold. Back at the property, what started as a frantic sweep of the house and yard had spiraled into pure, unadulterated panic. Athena's father, Jacob, and her stepmother, Ashley, realized she wasn't just hiding, she was completely gone. The sprawling acres that usually felt like a childhood sanctuary now felt like a vast, terrifying void. law enforcement descended on the quiet town of Paradise. An Amber Alert blared across phones statewide, officially turning a missing child report into a desperate race against time. The darkness was soon pierced by the blinding beams of police flashlights and the steady, thumping rhythm of helicopters circling overhead. Hundreds of local officers, Texas Rangers, and the FBI flooded the area. K-9 units aggressively sniffed the frigid ground, trying to pick up any trace of the little girl. But the woods remained agonizingly silent. Miles away in Oklahoma, Athena's biological mother, Maitland, received the phone call that is every parent's absolute worst nightmare. Driven by pure adrenaline and a sickening, gut-wrenching intuition that something was horribly wrong, she jumped into her car. She drove at breakneck speeds across state lines, pushing her vehicle to the absolute limit. Every passing mile was pure agony, her mind racing with terrifying scenarios, desperately holding onto the fragile hope that her baby girl would be found safe before she got there. I gotta be honest with you guys, the sheer terror her parents must have felt staring out into those dark woods. I can't even imagine. How would you feel if this happened to someone you love? It's a level of helplessness that genuinely makes my heart ache. While the family prayed for a miracle, investigators were working frantically behind the scenes. They quickly honed in on the one anomaly at the property that evening, the FedEx delivery. The chase was on. Law enforcement tracked down the driver, 31-year-old Tanner Horner, bringing him in for questioning. When officers finally confronted him, the exchange was captured on police body cam footage. The atmosphere was tense, the officers desperate for answers to bring the little girl home. It was a devastating admission that shattered all hope in an instant. But the horrifying truth was, his statement was a blatant, calculated lie. Athena had been alive when he threw her into the back of that dark van. No one could have predicted what happened next, and the chase to uncover exactly what he did to her was just beginning. As the frantic, boots-on-the-ground search consumed the local community, the Wise County Sheriff's Office and the Texas Rangers were working a different angle behind the scenes. They began piecing together a crucial timeline, and it didn't take long for a devastating connection to emerge. They realized the exact window of time Athena vanished matched perfectly with the delivery of that Barbie doll Christmas package. It wasn't a random disappearance or a tragic wandering off. The threat had been brought right to their doorstep. Investigators immediately coordinated with the delivery company to access the truck's third-party internal monitoring system, a highly advanced software known as Velocitor. This system was designed to track GPS breadcrumbs in real time, but more importantly, it continuously recorded video and audio from inside the vehicle. The digital footprint quickly unmasked the suspect, a 31-year-old contract delivery driver named Tanner Horner. When FBI digital forensic analysts finally extracted the data from the truck's SD card, they were met with a calculated, sinister reality. Horner wasn't just a panicked driver who made a sudden mistake. He knew exactly what he was doing and knew he was being watched. In a deliberate and chilling move, he had placed an object over the interior camera lens right before the nightmare escalated. He plunged the visual feed into absolute darkness, likely believing he had successfully erased any visual proof of his twisted actions. But he made a fatal, undeniable mistake. While the lens was blinded, the system's microphone kept running. It silently captured an entire hour of the horrific crime. For 60 agonizing minutes, the microphone recorded a blood-chilling nightmare unfolding inside the metal walls of the cargo area. The audio captured the terrifying sounds of a 250-pound man unleashing unimaginable violence on a tiny, helpless 7-year-old girl. Amidst the terrifying chaos, the muffled banging against the truck doors and the frantic cries for help, Athena fought back with the spirit of an absolute warrior. In one utterly devastating moment, through her desperate screams and heavy sobs, she tried to reason with the cold-blooded monster towering over her. With heartbreaking innocence, she cried out, "My mom told me I couldn't do this to anyone else, you can't do this to me." Just let that sink in for a second. Even in the face of pure, unadulterated evil, this sweet little girl was leaning on her mother's lessons about kindness and right from wrong. It is a detail that just completely shatters your soul. Before we go further into this dark timeline, if you value these deep dives and want to help us keep shining a light on victims who had their voices brutally stolen, please take a second to hit that subscribe button. Your support allows us to keep demanding justice for angels like Athena. Law enforcement officers, veterans who had seen the absolute worst of humanity had to sit in a quiet room and listen to that innocent child beg for her life while her attacker ignored every single plea. The horrifying truth is, what the audio recorded next is something that would break the hardest of investigators. The horrifying timeline, reconstructed through his chilling confessions and grim forensic evidence, revealed exactly what happened inside that mobile crime scene. Horner initially tried to spin a narrative to investigators, claiming that as he was navigating the driveway, he accidentally backed his massive delivery truck into little Athena. According to his own cold admission, the impact wasn't severe. She wasn't seriously injured, she was alive, alert, and simply scared. Any normal human being would have scooped her up, rushed to her parents' door, and called for help. But Horner didn't. Instead, his mind shifted to pure, twisted self-preservation. He later confessed to detectives that he panicked over a trivial fear. He was terrified he would get in trouble and lose his job if she told her father. To save his paycheck, he made the sinister decision to grab the innocent child and throw her into the pitch-black cargo hold of his van. Once inside, the situation rapidly devolved from a kidnapping into an unimaginable nightmare. The audio captured him ordering the terrified 7-year-old to take off her shirt. Athena, embodying the spirit of an absolute warrior, fiercely resisted. She fought back against a man nearly 4 times her size, refusing to comply. Frustrated by her fight, Horner's violence escalated to a sickening extreme. He coldly confessed that he first tried to violently snap her neck, hoping to end her life quickly so she wouldn't be able to tell on him. When that failed and she continued to struggle, he pinned her down and ruthlessly strangled the life out of her with his bare hands. But what struck me the most, the detail that will forever haunt everyone who sat in that courtroom, was the background noise of this brutal execution. While Athena was fighting for her final breaths, the truck's radio was playing the cheerful, upbeat holiday tune of Jingle Bell Rock. And Horner, he was casually singing along to the festive music as he tortured and murdered a child. I gotta be honest with you guys, this part really makes my blood boil when you realize the absolute void of human empathy inside this man. Does this make your blood boil too? After snuffing out her vibrant life, Horner drove to a remote, desolate stretch near Bobo Crossing. He callously dumped Athena's naked, bruised body into the frigid waters of the Trinity River, discarding her as if her precious life meant absolutely nothing.
After Horner disposed of Athena's body, he stops to clean up the van. Then he is back on camera, smoking a cigarette, making phone calls like nothing happened. And the next day drives back to Athena's neighborhood, where people are searching for her.
No, that's the only way out. I have more packages to deliver.
Prosecutors say this video shows how uncaring Horner is while going on with his life. And for this jury, it may be the evidence that sends him to death row.
The sheer audacity of his cold-blooded detachment didn't stop there. The very next day, while the entire town of Paradise was engulfed in a frantic, tear-filled search while helicopters scarred the woods and her parents wept in pure agony, Horner simply clocked back into work. He drove that exact same delivery truck right through Athena's neighborhood, casually dropping off packages and watching the heartbreaking chaos he had orchestrated, completely unfazed. No one could have predicted what happened next as investigators finally closed in on the devil himself. Diving into the twisted, sinister psychology of Tanner Horner reveals a deeply manipulative predator who was desperate to cast himself as the victim of circumstance. Once the walls closed in and the physical evidence became undeniable, he didn't show a single ounce of genuine remorse for the brutal nightmare he inflicted on a helpless child. Instead, he began spinning a chaotic web of bizarre, calculated lies to save his own skin. He had the absolute audacity to blame His Highness' actions on his Asperger's syndrome, claiming that unannounced changes to his FedEx delivery schedule caused his mental health to deteriorate into an uncontrollable state. But the deception didn't stop there. In a truly pathetic, blood-chilling attempt to escape accountability, Horner fabricated a sinister alter ego he called Zero. He looked seasoned investigators dead in the eye and claimed that he wasn't the one who committed the murder, it was Zero who took over his body and forced his hands. When that ridiculous facade failed to hold up, he pivoted again, writing a desperate letter from his jail cell. This time, he spun a wild, fabricated tale about an older, unidentified man who allegedly held him at gunpoint in the driveway and forced him to kidnap the little girl. But this is where the story takes a dark turn for his defense. The courtroom saw right through his sickening smoke and mirrors. During the trial, expert psychologist Dr. Amy Fritz took the stand and completely dismantled Horner's fragile narrative of a mental health crisis. She painstakingly reviewed the horrific video footage and pointed out the glaring, undeniable truth. Horner exhibited absolutely none of the physical signs associated with an autism meltdown. There was no head banging, no flushing of the face, and zero emotional dysregulation. What Dr. Fritz and the investigators saw wasn't a man lost in the throes of a psychotic break. They saw cold, calculated, and terrifyingly calm premeditation. His actions were deliberate every step of the way. He had the sinister presence of mind to intentionally cover the truck's internal camera before the violence escalated. Right after snuffing out a child's life, his demeanor didn't shatter into panic. Instead, his language was steady. He calmly picked up his phone, dialed his boss, and flawlessly lied about throwing up at a truck stop so he could abandon his route. Surveillance footage even captured him nonchalantly cleaning the back of his van and smoking a cigarette, acting as if he had just finished a mundane afternoon chore rather than a brutal murder. The absolute pinnacle of his chilling selfishness was caught on tape during his police interrogations. While sitting in a holding cell, knowing full well that a sweet 7-year-old girl was lying dead in a freezing river because of his bare hands, Horner broke down and began to sob. But the tears rolling down his face weren't for Athena. He wasn't crying for the devastated parents whose lives he had just destroyed. He was weeping entirely for himself, whining to investigators that he was going to miss out on his own son's life and crying over the fact that he wouldn't get to spend Christmas with his child. This part really makes my blood boil. He murders a child to save his paycheck and blames an alter ego named Zero. Drop your take in the comments. Does his excuse infuriate you as much as it does me? On the very first day of the highly anticipated capital murder trial, the courtroom was braced for a grueling, emotionally exhausting battle over guilt and innocence. But no one could have predicted what happened next. Tanner Horner stood before the judge and did the one thing no one expected. He pleaded guilty to both capital murder and aggravated kidnapping. By admitting his guilt right out of the gate, he completely bypassed the standard trial proceedings. The jury was immediately thrust into the heavy, soul-crushing burden of the punishment phase. Their only job now was to answer one ultimate, irreversible question. Does this monster spend the rest of his natural life rotting in a concrete cell, or does he face the death penalty?
It shows him slowly driving through Athena's neighborhood the day before her kidnapping.
At certain times covered up the cameras.
To prove that Horner deserved the ultimate punishment, prosecutors knew they had to show the jury exactly what he did. They played the blood-chilling hour-long audio recorded inside the pitch-black cargo hold of that FedEx van. As the horrific sounds of Athena fighting for her life echoed through the silent courtroom, the emotional toll was absolute. Grown men, hardened investigators, and every single member of the jury broke down. People were openly sobbing, physically shaking, and wiping away a constant stream of tears as they listened to the sheer terror inflicted on a helpless 7-year-old. I gotta be honest with you, just thinking about the heavy, suffocating grief in that room makes my chest tight. I'm curious, how would you feel sitting in that courtroom, forced to listen to the sounds of pure evil? The devastation reached an unimaginable peak when Athena's biological mother, Maitland, bravely took the witness stand. In her trembling hands, she tightly clutched a bright red bow, the exact same bow Athena was wearing in the photos taken just hours before she was snatched away. Through her immense grief and anger, Maitland stared down the man who destroyed her world. She didn't just share the beautiful memory of her vibrant little girl, she demanded answers. Because Athena's shirt was never recovered from the crime scene or his home, Maitland looked directly at Horner and asked a question that would shatter any parent's heart: "Where is my daughter's shirt?" It was a raw, agonizing plea for just a tiny piece of the truth that he was maliciously withholding. This is where the story takes a dark turn into his past, proving this wasn't just a sudden, isolated mistake. The horrifying truth is, Tanner Horner had a deeply sinister history of preying on the vulnerable. The prosecution called former victims to the stand, dragging his darkest secrets into the light. Two brave young women, Callan and Shay, looked their predator in the eye and testified that Horner had manipulated and assaulted them years earlier, back when they were only 16 years old. Their chilling testimonies established a clear, terrifying pattern of a predator. To seal his fate, forensic scientists took the stand to present the damning physical proof. They confirmed to the jury that male DNA was discovered on Athena's body. The scientific evidence completely shattered any last, desperate lie Horner tried to spin about the true nature of his horrific crime. Standing in the glaring light of a Texas courtroom, stripped of his fabricated excuses and his Zero alter ego, the monster was finally completely unmasked. Looking back at the entirety of this devastating, heart-wrenching journey, it is almost impossible to fully comprehend the sheer scale of the nightmare that unfolded in the otherwise quiet, sprawling town of Paradise, Texas. A routine afternoon, a highly anticipated Christmas package, and the innocent trust of a child were twisted into an unimaginable horror by a predator hiding in plain sight. We walked through the chilling timeline together, from the frantic, freezing nights of desperately searching the dark woods, to the blood-chilling realization of what the delivery truck's internal audio had secretly recorded, and finally, to the agonizing courtroom testimonies that completely unmasked the monster. It was an arduous, excruciating road for the dedicated law enforcement officers who worked tirelessly to find her, and an absolute living hell for the grieving family. But inside that Fort Worth courtroom, the suffocating darkness of Tanner Horner's unspeakable crimes was met with an overwhelming, unbreakable wave of love and fierce solidarity. The gallery was completely transformed into a vibrant, beautiful sea of bright pink, Athena's absolute favorite color. Family members, friends, attorneys, and a deeply heartbroken but fiercely united community filled the wooden benches wearing pink shirts, pink ribbons, and pink ties. It was a powerful, visual testament to a vibrant little girl whose light could not be extinguished by one man's horrific acts. They weren't just there as mere spectators, they were there to stand as an impenetrable wall of support, ensuring that Athena's spirit, her joy, and her fierce fight were the things that truly dominated that room, not as pathetic evil. Faced with an ironclad, irrefutable mountain of evidence, there was absolutely nowhere left for this ruthless predator to hide. The haunting echoes of that hour-long audio recording, the damning precision of the forensic DNA analysis, the exceptionally brave testimonies of his past victims, and his own cold-blooded, calculating actions completely annihilated any desperate excuse he tried to fabricate. The justice system closed its grip around him with absolute, unwavering certainty, leaving no room for leniency. We all know the agonizing reality: no jury verdict, no prison sentence, and no ultimate punishment can ever rewind time. Nothing the court decides can magically bring back that sweet, 7-year-old Viking princess who loved singing Frozen songs and just wanted to play with her new Barbie dolls. The void left in the shattered hearts of her parents, her little sister, and her community is a permanent, aching scar. However, amidst that profound tragedy, there is a fierce, undeniable finality in the outcome. Because of the relentless pursuit of the truth and the overwhelming, crushing weight of the evidence, this cold-blooded killer will be permanently, irrevocably erased from society. He is locked away in a concrete cell, entirely stripped of his freedom, and he will never, ever have the opportunity to inflict this kind of nightmare on another innocent child again. The horror he brought into the world ends permanently with him. A satisfying, deeply necessary sense of true justice has finally been served in the precious name of Athena Strand. Finally, after unimaginable pain, justice was served. What do you guys think? Does this ending bring you any sense of relief? I'll keep digging if there's more to uncover. Thanks for watching and for all the comments. You guys make this worth it.